Good morning, but you know that song has been at each of my election nights. So, and as you probably know, back in 2010 when I ran, no one thought I was going to win. So that was a, you know, every election night's been interesting because I've gone through all the Democrats. So, thank you very much. You guys have been the best. It's been since I ran in 2010. I can't thank you guys for what you've done. So, thanks for having me today. Good morning, everybody. It's great to see so many Republicans here and so many volunteers here. Now, I know some of you, I would go back to my governor time, I know some of you might be visiting from other states. The most important thing you think about is spend your money. That's how we keep this economy going. So now, what I might say to the people from out of state might seem a little controversial, but what I want to say is the state of Florida has the absolute best Republican Party in the nation. You are the best. So I wish my wife was here. and my grandkids would love this. First, I want to highlight Christian Ziegler. He's doing an incredible job running the RPOF, so let's give a big round of applause. But as we know, this is a team sport, so you've got great officers all around the state. Evan Power, your vice chairman. Christy Banks, Mike Moberly, James Campo, Clint Pate. His dad was great. Peter Feynman, who I just saw backstage, and Kathy King. So congratulations to all of them. First off, they and you are doing a fantastic job making sure that we remain the best Republican Party in the U.S. Now think about it. It's because of your hard work that we now have a voter registration advantage of over 620,000 now. Registered Republicans, so big round of applause for that. You guys have done a great job. So put that in perspective. Let's go back to 2010. We had a deficit of, no one told me this when I first started running, by the way, 569,000. There were 569,000 more Democrats and Republicans back when I ran in 2010. But it's because of your hard work that we're able to win. And I want to thank everybody, Christian, your whole team, all the volunteers, for doing this. You're not just changing Florida, you're changing the country. Because if we can win nationally because of Florida, if we win Florida constantly, we're going to win nationally constantly. So thank you very much. The other thing, I want to thank everybody here that supports the RPOF and all the volunteers, because this is a team sport. This would not happen without you. And it's really important that all of you continue to support the RPOF. They need to be in a position financially and with all their volunteers to be in a great place for 24, because everybody that's running, it makes a difference how well funded the party is. Now, it's always a great day to be in Florida, and here's why. It means we aren't up in Washington, D.C., where Mitch McConnell and a few Republicans, the Democrats, Chuck Schumer, they're going to pass some new spending bill. You know, the way it works up there is Joe Biden wakes up and he says, I think we ought to spend money this way. And so they come over to the Senate, Schumer brings it up, and we go pass it. And think about it. It takes now, this year 9, but the first 2 years of Biden took 10 Republicans to get anything passed, and they did. So now let's go through what's happening right now under Democrat control. An open border, completely open border. Any of you have been down there, it's completely open. Thousands of terrorists, criminals, and drugs pouring across our country. They're all just coming in. It's completely open. So I don't know if you saw this week in Homeland Security Committee, FBI Director Christopher Wray, I asked him, I don't know if you guys saw the clips. I said, is America safer under Biden? You know his response was, how can I say this without saying the wrong thing for Biden? So think about this. The man who runs the FBI couldn't say we're safer. That's pretty scary. I told my daughters, I said, You should think about this every day. You know, we all worry about our families. I said, you just have to think, are borders open? Look at what happened to Israel. So it could happen here. So we got a botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. Think about it. We stranded thousands of Americans behind enemy lines, took the lives of, and this didn't need to happen. 13 heroic U.S. service members died. We left billions of dollars of military equipment behind. Now some of that's reportedly being used by Hamas in their raid against Israel and in their still attacking the IDF. By the way, let me tell you a story about this. This is anybody that's been in the service. My service tags, we have 2 service tags, and they're not shaped like this. But this service tag was given to me by 2 parents. They're American families that their kids grew up in the States, and they joined the IDF. So outside our office, we put a poster of all the hostages. I don't think at the White House they have that. But the top is Hebrew, and they came to me. Their kids grew up, and they joined the IDF, and they were captured the first night, and they haven't heard from them. So 2 people have told me different things. It says the hostages or their hearts are in Gaza, and bring them home now. And don't you wish we had a president that would do that? So we got a military that's more focused on pronouns and being lethal. We got the complete destruction of women's sports. Did you see that thing? The clip came out where I think it was a lacrosse game that a male played women's sports and really sent this little girl to the hospital. People getting paid not to work. Now think about a guy that ran on getting jobs back. I don't think that makes sense. We got crime rampant all across our country. People break the laws and there's no enforceability. We got a nation where criminals have more rights than victims. We appease our dictators. You got merged dictators. They're eroding freedom, democracy, stability around the world. And does our president stand up and say, no way? No, he says, let's go over and say hi. So Schumer just went over there. So now Israel's under attack and at war, and Joe Biden is reduced. Well, think about it. He reduced oil sanctions, and they gave Iran $6 billion, and he can't talk about it. He can't talk about hostages. So we know Iranians, Israelis and Americans have been tortured and killed. I was at one of the kibbutz about a half mile from Gaza in 2019 with my wife, and there were babies beheaded there. I talked to a lady that gave us the tour. She said that basically everybody on her street was killed. I mean, this is all at the hands of Iran. It's Iran-backed terrorists. So we got a president who can barely even talk about the Americans held hostages. You saw that when he did his little talk, he talked about for 50 minutes. He spent 15 seconds on our hostages, and he's talked about Ukraine 23 times. So he ought to be in the Situation Room saying, how the hell do I get these hostages home every second? Instead, he's doing what? Green New Deals, went on the beach in Delaware. So think about it. His State Department admitted that money, if we give money to Gaza, it goes to Hamas. They admitted it. His State Department, not Trump's, his State Department. They said it's likely to go to Iran-backed terrorists. And they said, okay. They said we should, think about it, we should be, when you see this stuff, you think, how could that happen? You know, I've been up there 5 years, you say, how can we be doing these things? So I filed a bill, and here it's really difficult to understand. It seems pretty logical. It says we are not going to give money to Hamas. Real controversial, right? So I went down the Senate. Yeah. So I went, now who could vote against that, right? So I go down the Senate floor, and guess what? Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer blocked it. So it just said, it was like one page. It says, all they have to do is say, we're not going to give American taxpayers to Hamas. But it failed. I mean, you can't make this stuff. So here's my deal. We need to talk about the atrocities. We need to talk about what happened. And we've got to support Israel. And we've got to make sure they completely destroy Hamas. So somebody said, oh, gosh, they said, oh, we need to have a ceasefire. I agree. We ought to have a ceasefire the moment after every Hamas terrorist is dead. One of my grandsons was somebody was telling him about, how we got to worry about, the Palestinians. And so I explained to him, I said, what would he's got a little sister. I said, what would happen if somebody came and did something mean to your little sister? Would you just say, well, let's just stop doing anything else? No, you have to stand up. And thank God they're doing it. Now, Biden, instead of talking about our hostages, he brings out, he has an unserious proposal. He wants to leak Israeli aid to a bunch of other things, okay, including bailout for sanctuary cities. Not secure the border. We got to give New York, Boston, places like that more money so they can open up more hotels. It makes you mad. Mitch McConnell, think which side he's on. The Biden side, the Chuck Schumer side. But guess what? We invited Mike Johnson, the new speaker. Yep. We invited him over to lunch last week, and Mike Lee, Ron Johnson and I did, and he said, absolutely not. So we are going to do whatever we can to get money to Israel. So what we're demanding, I'm demanding, and a lot of us on the Senate, we're demanding a clean vote just on the aid to Israel. It's already passed the House. Thank God for Speaker Johnson. But here's what they're going to try to do. Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, some others, they're going to try to tie it all together because they're hell-bent on helping, Ukraine give money to more money for sanctuary cities and a variety of other things. But I want Ukraine to win, but we need to have it completely separate. We need to make that as a separate decision. So here's the deal. We could all be, oh gosh, we can all be grim and say this is not going to get fixed, but it is. And think about it, we haven't mentioned the economic collapse that Biden has done. Look at inflation, look at interest rates. Have anybody bought a house? I was just meeting with the realtors. Interest rates for a home are now over 8%. All right? But this is what you get. This is what you get. If Democrats are in charge, you get everything falls apart. Now, does anybody ever think Joe Biden's lucid enough to even know what's going on? I don't know. So I think he's become an embarrassment to his own party, but he's also an embarrassment to our position in the world. But look, it didn't just stop with Democrats. We have Republicans in Washington who cave into the Democrats, right? Think about it. They couldn't have passed the infrastructure bill without Republican votes. They couldn't have passed the CHIPS bill without Republican votes. They couldn't have passed the stupid omnibus bill without Republican votes. So last year, so this was not the easiest thing I did. Not the most, I didn't make all the friends in the world, but I ran against McConnell. So, he'd never, ever been challenged before. Never, all right? So think about it. With him in charge, we are not fighting for conservative policies. And there's one person. It's Mitch McConnell. He organized it to where they got what they wanted, all those bills. Now look around the room and go around the country. We've got a thriving Republican Party. I mean, we're doing unbelievable. But we got a Republican Party in Florida, all across the country. So guess what? Shouldn't we have one in D.C.? That would be nice. Well, I think we've got one with Mike Johnson as Speaker. You know something that you should be really proud of. So I think we're all very supportive of Israeli aid, aid to Israel. But guess what? He made sure it was paid for. That's smart. They haven't been doing that. They say, oh, we like this, we're just going to borrow more money. So think about it. Running against McConnell, it did make me a lot of new friends. Some people said I'm the least popular politician in Washington. I never called myself a politician, by the way. But look, I take that as a badge of honor. Because how many of us are happy with what's going on in D.C.? We're not. We shouldn't be. So, look, I'm going to take on anyone. I'm going to tell everybody, I represent Florida. All right? And you should represent your state, your district, but I'm going to do what's right. I've I tried to do it. I started that way when I ran in 2010. I'm going to represent every family in this state. And we're going to do the right things for our states, and you should do the right thing for your state. So here's what's happened. I didn't win. Unfortunately, I didn't win. But no, it couldn't happen in the United States. But the election was supposed to be in January. You know when it was? The day after I announced I was going to run against him. Could not happen here, right? But look, we didn't win, but we showed the establishment that we're not going to sit back. And we're not going to let them destroy this country. We are not. So we said in that ad, we are not going to let them destroy our country. They're trying. So what did Ronald Reagan say 40 years ago? He came up with the phrase, it's going to be morning in America. That's how we should think about it. It's all up to us. Back in what was that, 1980? It resonated back then. And, you know, people for all walks of life were saying, we cannot stand the Carter years. Well, they were saying that today with the Biden years. So I said to my ad, Ronald Reagan, you could almost say George Washington, you say, they wouldn't recognize this country, right? Right? So some people say, is this the beginning of the end? It's not. It's only the beginning of the end if we let it be. If we stop fighting every day, if we cede our country to the incompetent, crazy Democrats, who they just don't believe in the true fabric of this country and our values, then we lose. But think about it. We turned Florida around. We had problems back in 2010. We turned it around by working together. It wasn't one person that did it. We all did it together. So I've always been an optimist. I mean, so I always believed that we can do this. We can return us to the rightful position of the economic and military powerhouse and the undisputed moral leader of the free world. But it's going to start with winning in the White House. We have to win the White House. We have to. By the way, we have given so much power to the executive branch. We should never do that. But we've got to win the White House. We've got to get a Republican majority in the Senate, and we got to get a bigger majority in the House. We will. Now, you might have seen that I endorsed President Trump on Thursday. You can imagine he liked the phone call, right? He did. He's fun. So I made the decision because I believe, I don't think there's any question in my mind, he is the one person running that can really bring strength back to our country. Now, we all get to make our own choices. So I think it's great today. You're going to have a great opportunity. You're going to see all these great candidates. But one thing's clear. Every one of them is better than Biden. So of incumbents in the Senate, Ted Cruz and I have the hardest races. So both of us are up this next year. And so each of our races, we're critical to get a majority. Now, we've got other opportunities. We've got opportunities in West Virginia, in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, in Michigan, in Montana, in Arizona, in Nevada. I talked to a great candidate in Washington yesterday. But in my case, I'm running against a radical socialist from Miami. Guess who picked her? Chuck Schumer. So guess how much Chuck Schumer spent against me last time? $65 million. Now, he tried to get some celebrities and some NBA players to run against me, but they, I guess, had some sense. So I don't think many of you probably have heard of her, and most people haven't, and I doubt that anybody will. But here's all you need to know about her. Who do you think she's voted 100% with? Nancy Pelosi. 94% with Ilhan Omar. I don't think she'd win in Florida. 93% with AOC. And guess who she takes selfies with? Tlaib. So she refuses to condemn her friends in the squad for their support of Hamas. Can you think about this? Who in their right mind would support people that mutilate babies? I mean, like you just say to yourself, who could do that? And why would you have hatred toward Israel or hatred toward a Jewish population? I don't care what party you are, okay? But we've got to do everything we can to call Hamas for what it is, and don't stop. We need to say exactly what they did. They murdered babies. They shot people point blank. It's just unbearable barbarian terrorism against innocent people. So I'm going to fight anti-Semitism. I'm going to stand up for Israel. I hope everybody here does the same thing. I don't think we ought to support businesses that don't believe our way, right? And if you don't support Israel, I'm not going to support you. So right after October 7th, somebody told me that the Starbucks Workers Union came out and supported Hamas. Yep. So I called for a boycott of Starbucks. They called and said, well, you know, we don't really want to respond to this. I said, great, I'm just going to get everybody I can to boycott you until you do. So it took them a few hours, but finally they came out and they said they didn't support it. So think about it. How many times you want to go get a barista and say, oh, who do you support? They ought to have this and this and this. This is what they ought to have. So my understanding, they did finally, it took them all day, but they finally put their statement out, and I heard now they're suing their union, so which is what they should have done for the same thing. What about our college campuses? You know, when I went to school, I mean, first off, my mom would have been so mad at me. I don't know if many of you met my mom. She was work. She had standards. Here's who you should admire. Ben Sasse, new president of the University of Florida. He's been relentless in support of Israel. He's called out terrorist sympathizers, and he's told every Jewish student at the University of Florida he's going to make sure they feel safe. That's what every college president should do. Everybody should be doing that. So if you donate to charities or organizations, don't give money if they don't support Israel and if they support Hamas. Here's what's neat. I've called some of these donors big donors to University of Pennsylvania and to Harvard, and they've cut funding because their leadership at these universities won't even say that it's wrong what their students are doing. So, and then we got employers like Sweetgreens and Davis Polk that are saying, if you support Hamas, you are not coming to work here. Now, we don't see Democrats doing this, do we? So which side are they on? So we have to have big wins next year. We're going to have big wins next year. We're on the right side of the issues. So let me just finish with this. I'm a poor kid that grew up in public housing, and I built a career in business because I know the most important thing you do is get people a job. That's why I ran on 10. You guys gave me a big opportunity when you supported me back in 2010 when none of you knew me. And I'm very appreciative. I think my wife is still appreciative too. I only was governor because of you, right? And I'm only in the Senate because of you. You know, you guys are the ones that got people out to the polls. You busted your butt to get people out there to tell them what I believed in. As you know, in the 2018 race, we had to win 3 times. On election night, my eldest grandson, August, he said, Grandpa, he was 7. He said, Grandpa, am I going to be on television? Grandpa, I want to be on television. I want my friends to see me on television. I said, August, whatever happens tonight, you're going to be on television. So we won by 57,000 votes. We announced it. So that was great. And now, to put that in perspective for a second, I'm the only Republican that won in the Senate in a swing state in the country in 18 because of you. So So the next day, Mark Elias, the Democrat lawyer, comes down. He says, we're going to win through the courts. We won because of you. 7,000 volunteers, 1,000 lawyers, and we kicked their butts. So thank you for this opportunity. I will do anything I can. If you don't have my cell phone number, somebody close to you has it. So give me a call. I love to campaign with you. I want anybody out there running. I wish you the best of luck, and we are going to have a great 2024. Have a great night. Dave, bye-bye.